This is Chris, the old-ass retro gamer, back once again. Today I'm going to focus on the Sega Dreamcast games that I have managed to recollect for my retro gaming collection since I decided to get back into it back in November of 2013. I had a very large Sega Dreamcast collection before I was forced to sell it, and I had a lot of really good games, a lot of ones that are worth a lot of money right now. I had both Power Stones, and yeah, I had a lot. But I'm finding them very easy to collect again. There's a lot of stores around here that carry them, and I'm having a great time doing it. I'm always surprised when I find something that I haven't seen in a while. So, I also want to say that out of all the gaming consoles that have come out over the years, there's only two that I got on day one. One of them was the Nintendo 64, and we all know how that turned out since there was only two games available at launch and it kind of sucked. The other was the Dreamcast. I pre-ordered the system, and I would say 75% of the games that were released on day one. And I bought all of it. I had it all. It was pretty awesome. I was really excited about it. And out of all the systems that have been released over the years, the Dreamcast is probably my second favorite one, right behind the Super Nintendo. So, let's get back into it. Here we go with Air Force Delta. It's a shooter that's behind the plane. It's actually really fun. It's kind of an arcadey airplane simulator. One of the games I picked up on day one is Blue Stinger. It's a survival horror game that's very sci-fi oriented. It's a lot of fun, even though it's very clunky, but I recommend it. I had a lot of fun playing it back when I first got the system. Caesar's Palace 2000. Yeah, it's a gambling game, obviously. Coaster Works. It's a amusement park simulator where you build your own roller coasters and then you get to test them and redevelop them and whatnot. And it's a lot of fun. It doesn't sound like it would be, but I ended up really becoming fond of sim games like this over the past few years. So I found this game to be extremely entertaining. Another classic, Crazy Taxi. I'm not sure if this was a launch game. But I remember I had it pretty early on in the system's lifespan. But it's a ton of fun, still holds up, even though it's a little arcadey in nature. Deep Fighter, which is an underwater version of Wing Commander. It's a lot of fun, it's very deep. And it's a lot of fun. I enjoy the hell out of this game, even though it can get pretty complicated at times and kind of frustrating because the controls are a little weird. Echo the Dolphin. I prefer this version over all the other versions, even the Genesis ones. They finally, as far as I was concerned, got it right with this sequel. The 3D version of it is a lot better, and it's easier to control and everything else. But it's actually pretty decent. Hardcore ECW Revolution. Or ECW Hardcore Revolution. Yeah. It's a wrestling game, obviously. I haven't really been a big fan of wrestling games in the past, but I've kind of warmed up to them recently because basically it's just a brawler with a different set of rules. So I'm finding myself enjoying it. And then there's this. Fighting Force 2. Yeah, this is one of the worst games released for the system. And this system had very few games that I disliked. And this is one of the very few. I only got it for a couple of dollars within a lot that I bought off of eBay. And, I mean, out of all the games, I was like, that had to come with it? Okay. One of my all-time favorites is Hydro Thunder. It's a racing game with motorboats. If you liked San Francisco Rush, this is right up your alley, as it was mine, because I love that game as well. Kiss Psycho Circus. It's a first-person shooter starring all the Kiss characters. It's a little odd and weird, but I think that's what sets it apart. But I have a lot of fun playing this game. MDK2, another favorite. It has a very, very weird sense of humor, and it is very enjoyable. The play control in this is amazing. The design and everything to it, the graphics, everything, music, it's top notch. I highly recommend this. I still have to find a copy of the first game for the PlayStation. And I will admit this right now. Out of all the systems that I am collecting for currently, the one that I am endeavoring to get a complete collection for is the Sega Dreamcast. Why? Because Out of all the systems out there, I'm finding the games the easiest to pick up, and the games are still relatively manageable money-wise. Yeah, there's some expensive ones out there, but I do see myself being able to pick those up at some point, which is why I have these games I'm going to show you next in my collection, because I am endeavoring to get a complete collection for this system. NBA 2K, I'm not a sports game fan, but because I want to get a complete collection, I decided I was going to have to pick these up at some point. I found all these sports games that I have in my collection at a Goodwill for about $2 each, which made it perfect for me because they were really cheap to get. So that was NHL 2K, or NBA 2K, NBA 2K1, NFL 2K, NFL 2K1, NHL 2K. I still need to get NHL 2K1. Plasma Sword. When I was forced to sell all my games when I lost my job, this was the only one that I had left when I decided to get back into collecting. And for good reason, because, I was kind of glad it didn't sell, because I haven't really seen this anywhere when I go looking for games out in the wild. But I have the original game, Star Gladiator, for my PlayStation, and this game improves upon it in every way possible. It's a lot of fun, even though some of the characters are imbalanced. But I went back and played this again, and I had a ton of fun doing it. Quake 3 Arena. Yeah, we all know Quake, if you're a gamer. I went back and played this, and I really wasn't enjoying it because the controls are so damned loose. I couldn't even get a bead on the character I was shooting at. So, I still respect it for what it is and what it did for the genre with the internet capabilities, playing multiplayer online. But for the most part, I don't really see myself going back and playing this very often. Soldier of Fortune. This game got a lot of crap because of the violent content in it. You could target people's limbs and blow them off. And I remember that being super amazing when I first picked this up back in the day. It still holds up as a first-person shooter. It is, the graphics and everything are out of date completely. But I do find it still enjoyable to an extent. Another game I picked up at launch, Soul Calibur. I don't need to say much about this game. You all know how amazing it is as a fighter. It's super awesome, amazeballs. Soul Fighter. It's a brawler that I picked up in a lot. Came with a bunch of games I got here. It's actually not that bad. It could be better in every way possible, but for a game that came out when it did, this is actually not too terrible. Star Lancer, another one of my favorites. It's basically a Wing Commander style space sim. It's very, very fun. It's very complicated at times. Sometimes the controls can be a little frustrating with what you have to tell your co-pilots and whatnot, and your people in your squadron. But this also was online compatible, so you could play online, and that was pretty amazing back in the day. Another game I'm not too fond of, and that is Star Wars Demolition. I love Twisted Metal. Twisted Metal 2 is probably one of my favorite games of all time, and I love games like that, those demolition racing type games. And they tried to do that with the Star Wars license, and as far as I was concerned, it did not work. It fell flat on its face. It's about as bad as Masters of Terraskazi for the PlayStation 1. But, it's still Star Wars, and a lot of people respect it just for that reason, but I'm not one of those people. And on the other hand, there's a Star Wars game that does not suck, and that is Star Wars Episode 1 Racer. I wish this was a port of the arcade game. I loved the arcade game, but we got this instead. But it's not a knock against it at all. This is actually a really, really fun racing game. It just so happens to be, using the Star Wars license. And even though it's, from Episode 1, which as far as I'm concerned is one of the worst movies ever made, this actually turned out pretty good. Another game I got at the Goodwill is Sega Tennis 2K2. Time Stalkers. This is, I think, the only role-playing game I currently own for the Dreamcast. I did not own this game back when I first had the system, but when I did buy it at a local store, the clerk behind the counter chatted me up about it, saying like, oh, damn it, now I gotta wait for another copy to come in because I was gonna buy that the next time I got paid. You stole it out from under me, but good for you because this game is amazing and you're really gonna like it. And I have not played it yet, but just from what I've read online and the footage I've seen on YouTube, I'm really looking forward to playing this through. Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six, another one I found at the Goodwill for a couple of bucks. Yeah, I'm not a big strategy shooter fan, but I'm willing to give this a shot because it's spawned I don't know how many sequels, so obviously there's something going on that's good. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. Yeah, it's awesome. It's still fun to this day, even though the graphics are kind of but I still enjoyed the time I had when I played it a couple of months back when I first started collecting again. Toy Commander. Yeah, it's a decent adventure game where you play as different toys in some kid's bedroom. You can play as like a helicopter and a car and all this kind of stuff. And it's not that bad. I mean, I remember playing it when I first bought it back in like 2000, and it was pretty fun back then. It's not really the greatest game out there for the system, but it's not. There's a lot worse. Virtua Fighter 3 TB, not the best version of this game. Virtua Fighter in general. Yeah, the controls are a little weird and everything is still kind of floaty. But the graphics are very improved from Part 2. So, I mean, it's still fun. I mean, it's still Virtua Fighter. I still like Virtua Fighter to this day. And I'm not sad that I have that, but I want to collect the whole, a complete collection, so I have to have it. Virtual Tennis. Surprisingly, this is a sports game I do like. I remember playing Virtual Tennis in the arcade, or at least the Sega Tennis version that they had in the arcade, and I had a blast doing it, and it's still fun. World Series Baseball 2K1, another one I got at the Goodwill. And lastly, WWF Attitude, another wrestling game I picked up at a half-price books for like $4. Yeah, this one's actually not that bad. I remember a couple of my friends had, I do believe it was the Nintendo 64 version of it, and I watched them play it at great length at times. And I always kind of said, oh, maybe I should pick that up at some point. It looks kind of fun, and never did. It's sad that I ended up picking it up 15 years later almost. But, yeah. And WWF Attitude is pretty cool. Well, that's it for my Dreamcast games. And the next episode, I'll go into my very extensive PlayStation 2 collection. So if you have any comments, questions, concerns, please feel free to leave them in the comments below. I look forward to reading anything that you have to say about the show. What do you think I can do to make it better and whatnot? And until then, I am Chris, the old-ass retro gamer, saying I'll see you next time.